Hey guys, welcome back to Thunderdome Homestead. Sorry about my outfit, I just come back from a wedding. So, I got a little something to teach you guys today. I'm going to tell you how to grow potatoes in buckets. So, what we're going to start off with today is 1/3 topsoil, 1/3 compost, and 1/3 peat moss. So what we're going to do, you have your bucket here. You want to drill holes in the bottom of it because you don't want that water pooling in the bottom of the bucket because that'll cause your taters to rot out. So you want to have somewhere for that to go, some drain, some weepage, and that's where you start with that. And then you got your taters here. So these are Yukon Gold potatoes, and when you have to cut them if they're too big. You don't have to, but I prefer to make the most use out of them. You want to do that 3 or 4 days before you try planting them, because there's so much moisture in this potato. If you throw it on there without any sort of skin on it, it'll start rotting away. So you want to let this, you see how, it's real callousy. It's kind of like a leathery skin that's developed over it over the last couple days. So that's the first thing you want to do. Let it sit for a couple days out of the sun. It's good to go. You want to pick or cut a spot that has at least 2 eyes. This here's one eye, this here's another eye. And there's another 3rd eye and a 4th eye there on this particular piece. And you know what they say, you never plant your onions and your potatoes next to each other, because the onions will make the potatoes' eyes water. So, you start off with these taters. Let them sit for a couple days, do their thing. Yeah. So, you get your topsoil, like I said earlier, make yourself a 1/3 mixture each. So, yourself a little topsoil there. I use a mixing bucket. 1/3 of that. You got 1/3 of your compost, which I have compost brewing over there, it just ain't ready yet. And 1/3 peat moss. Nope, I don't even need Mac for this one. It opened itself.
Why don't you go over peat moss a little bit?
So, peat moss helps retain a little moisture in the soil. So you get a little additive. And so that peat moss will retain the moisture, but any excess moisture will drain out of them bottom holes. So get in there about balls deep and you mix it up real good. You got yourself some good stuff there now. So I want to sit this bucket right over here, because I don't want to have to pick it up again. Work smarter, not harder, folks. Although, it doesn't matter, I'm still having to move this thing. So, I guess I shot myself in the foot there. But, you want to put about 4 inches of this mixture down there in the bottom. Something like that. You don't want your seed potatoes sitting on plastic. And those potatoes are going to grow up. And what is above them is where your new potatoes are going to grow. So I'm going to go ahead and take 4 of these. I'm going to sit them here like so. One right in there, one right in there, one there, and one there-ish. So there are a lot of benefits to doing this. Some people's ground has worms that'll burrow through the potatoes. Some people's ground is too wet and it'll make the potatoes rot. So you have a lot more control over the environment that these are in just by putting them in containers. And if you have an early frost or something like that, you can bring them in, and again, you have a lot more control of the environment. So the next thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to put another 6 inches or so above these guys. Yeah, that looks about right. So, as those potatoes start to peek out and then plants start coming up, you start to see leaves popping up through. You're going to hill it up a little more. And you're going to do it right about to here-ish. Okay? Give them a little something extra. I might go a little lower because I want to do a thin layer of mulch to keep some of the moisture in. But for the most part, that's what you do. Then you go ahead and water them in real good. And you got your taters in buckets. So, potatoes are the biggest thing in calories. If you're looking to use a garden for sustainability and you're looking for calories, potatoes are what you want. You know, your cucumbers, your zucchini, your squash, that stuff is all good. It has, you know, trace minerals and stuff you want. But essentially they're just big water balloons. The majority of what they are is all water. So you want to have something with some calories, a little bit of bite, a little something to get you through. Hence the potato. So, I hope you guys thought this was useful.
I got some questions here. What about for first timers here? What's the general season for growing potatoes outdoors, and are there options for indoor growing for those who cannot do it outside?
Okay, so it depends. So I live in a really weird little spot. So it's very wet, very swampy. There's a big old swamp right back there that in the early spring has about a foot deep of water. And where we're standing right now typically is really soupy. Not this spot, but maybe like right there. So it depends on your area. Typically they like they don't like frost. You want to do maybe once your nights get to about I'd say 45 degrees. Once your nights hit about 45-50 degrees, that's when you need to be planting your taters. I'm getting at it late because the ground at that point in time, the ground was too wet to till for me. So I get to have the pleasure of putting everything all together in the ground at the same time. Now, granted, I do still have a harvest, and a lot of people say, "Oh, it's too late to put this in, or it's too late to put that in." Maybe, but no, you're still gonna get something out of it. You're not gonna have the max yield, but planting something is better than planting nothing. And as far as the in-ground stuff, or I'm sorry, indoor stuff, you have greenhouse options, you have grow light options, mosquitoes. There's tons of options. It just depends on your situation, how much you're willing to invest, and I think that's about the gist of it.
So you'd say a potato is a good place for someone to start.
Potatoes are, yeah, they're really easy. You put them in the ground and you don't mess with them until it's time to harvest. And it's really cool at the end of the year to see, oh, how much did I get? You know, you're like a little kid at a candy store. You just kind of go out there and you find what you want. So I'm not just putting potatoes in these buckets. I'm also putting them in the garden as well. But I know in the past there's been issues with potatoes rotting, depending on how wet things get, because it does get fairly wet here, and we have a somewhat limited growing season since we live in a more northern climate. So my situation's different than your situation. Your situation's different than Jeff's situation. Jeff's situation is different than Tina's situation. So, any other questions? Awesome. All right, guys. Well, welcome back to, or I'm sorry. I don't edit. Thanks for visiting Thunderdome Homestead. I hope you guys got something out of this. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see y'all later.